And we are recording. Another week, gentlemen, another week down, and we're still here. So that's a good thing.
Do I get to do my opening?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I almost forgot.
Welcome to Binary Information Nexus, your podcast of CERN.
I'm going to get a sound effect because we played around with the sound effects earlier.
Oh, yeah. He can make my voice like demonic, like really deep, low.
When we get into the new space, I'll have them labeled so I can absolutely do that.
So you don't just press random sound button.
Could always try to do like Screamo. Podcast of CERN.
Hope no one plays this with a subwoofer.
Yeah, I was about to say it sounded like Nordic pagan death metal going on.
Fan favorite.
Yeah. So I've been informed that this week's podcast is actually brought to you by Vulture, our favorite hosting provider. And the way that I think the sponsorship works is we'll put a link in the description. If you click on the link and you sign up and you're active for at least 30 days, we get like a $10 off thing on our subscription.
I have no idea, Donald.
Something like that.
You know,
More like details to come, but please feel free to use that link.
It sounds like a phishing link. That is the fishiest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Richard, are you trying to fish our users?
No. This is something that Donald set up. I didn't have anything to do with it.
That's even worse. We know Donald is trying to fish our viewers.
I mean, it's
no one's going to click this.
Yeah, well,
there goes our $10.
Yeah, there goes our $10 off, in which we use Vulture quite a bit. It is a great hosting provider if you're exfiltrating data. I mean, backing up your data to a hosting service.
Very reliable.
Very reliable. Very reliable.
Easy to take servers up and down again.
Yeah, they support rclone, all the premium SSH clients and services.
They're pretty isolated too, so it's nice to be able to.
Well, they're isolated and geographically dispersed enough, depending on your target. I mean, your client. You have logical access to them with low latency.
Mm-hmm.
Are we sure Vulture wanted us?
I don't know.
Seriously, we do use Vulture quite a bit. They are a good hosting provider. We spin up servers to test stuff all the time, and really reasonable on pricing. So if anybody's listening wants to go out and spin up a VPS, we do recommend Vulture. So, with that out of the way, we did have one comment. We got a lot to get to today, so this podcast is going to run a little long. But I've had two requests for the podcast. One is we got to spend a little more time on the beer that we're drinking because obviously the nerds need to know what we think about the beer that we're drinking. So Brazos has been on the road today, and we were originally supposed to do this podcast an hour ago, but he was an hour late, but we started drinking without him. So I had a vanilla porter from Breckenridge Brewery.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, no.
Oh, you are cut off, sir.
Because it was totally my fault and not the.
Brazos opened a beer and immediately spilt it all over himself. That's going to be a fun ride home if you get stopped.
Oh yeah.
So
well, I'm going to Golson. I don't have to worry.
There you go. So I am drinking the Breckenridge Brewery, or I have drank the Breckenridge Brewery Vanilla Porter, which I have to say is fantastic. It is really, really good, which is handy because I messed up. This is the one I messed up on and ordered like 2 cases of.
Yeah, we still have, and that's maybe the other reason why we haven't spent as much time on it as some people would like, is that we have definitely been drinking the same thing.
Drinking the same thing, yeah.
Last 3 weeks, because, yeah, you did. You got 4 6-packs of beer.
I did. I was supposed to get 4 beers and got 4 6-packs. So what I've switched to, the Vanilla Porter is great. Again, that's Breckenridge Brewing Company. Is the Southern Star Brewing Company Bombshell Blonde American Blonde Ale. Now, I love ales. This ale is very good. It is a perfect summertime ale. It's not real hoppy. It's not real thick. It's like drinking Coors Light with a little bit more taste.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that assessment. Kind of any of your regular like off the shelf beers, it's kind of basically the same, but with just a little bit more pizzazz. Which, yeah, I'd prefer that over Coors or.
Yeah, that's going to be my next one. I'm on my second Asahi here, which the super dry. I don't know what it means by dry, but it's a little bit on the bitter side. I don't know.
Because it's a Japanese beer made in Italy.
Yeah. I would put it like I'm actually okay with Miller. I like Miller Lights decently. Like it's not my go-to, but I'll drink it at a party kind of thing.
Well, we're in cyber. We can't really afford the good stuff.
This is worse than that.
So what you're saying is you're not going to get that again.
No, and I'm on my second of them. I'm just trying to get them out of my fridge. Yeah. See, that's the other thing is Richard buys all the beers for the podcast to bring them in and have us try things, but it keeps them in the management fridge.
I do,
and so I need to keep it away from me. For my monsters that I need in order to be able to keep going during the day because there's so much beer in my fridge.
It's one of the perks of what we do. Occasionally, I can supply alcohol to numb over the week that we've had collectively, right? That's part of.
And we do thank you very much. And if any of you guys who are listening would like to lighten the load on Richard's bill, feel free to sponsor us. We'll drink anything. Could be Kool-Aid, can be Capri Suns, can be beer.
I have found many beers that I have not liked, but I have drank every one of them. It will not go to waste. I promise you that. So, all right. So that is the beer review. Pretty much if it's beer, we'll drink it. It's fine. Now on to the news with a segue into our topic. So, when I ran across this today, I was like, of course, this is going to be a perfect topic for us, but it's actually in the news segment. Here's the headline: Chinese, and this is Bleeping Computer, which we all know and love. One of the best publications out there. Chinese hackers breached National Guard to steal network configurations. Are we surprised?
I wonder how they did that.
Okay, we're going to get into that in our topic, in our main topic. But first, let's read the lead here. The Chinese state-sponsored hacking group known as Salt Typhoon breached and remained undetected in a U.S. Army National Guard network for 9 months in 2024, stealing network configuration files, administrator credentials that could be used to compromise other government networks. Goes on to talk about Salt Typhoon being a Chinese state-sponsored hacking group that is believed to be affiliated with Chinese Ministry of State Security, their intelligence agency. The hacking group has gained notoriety over the past 2 years for its wave of attacks on telecommunications and broadband providers worldwide, including AT&T, Verizon, Lumen, Charter, Windstream, Viasat, and all the other stuff that we just don't know about yet. Right. So first of all, this story was published June 17th, 2025. The attack occurred in 2024, lasted 9 months, going undetected. How does that happen?
Well, so I think I look at the situation where we had one of those edge routers that a customer had that wasn't really like in their network, at least from the visibility standpoint that we had, that had a very similar situation where what we suspected was Chinese state actors had access to that edge router, and it was very stealthy. I mean, outside of the fact, I think it was like one outbound call that was detected. And at that point we went in there and you could check the TCP connections and okay, there you go. But you're talking about an edge router that most people probably don't ever log into. Now the government, that's a different story, but.
And I think that's the main way that a lot of those kinds of things go undetected. Because remember, we're talking about this in China is notorious for this in targeting infrastructure and trying to create basically their own infrastructure they can use in order to have botnets or just better visibility. And they'll sit there and they'll just watch for a very long time.
Right.
But a lot of the reason why they do that is because it's harder to detect, because most of your monitoring software and hardware is inside the network.
But Joe, you say that, right? And this is the United States Army National Guard facility. We've got NIST controls. We've got the National Defense Authorization Act of 2019. It's supposed to lock a lot of this stuff down.
Yeah, if it's being patched. I mean, because you have the standards and then you have what happens, right?
Yeah.
And that's something we deal with all the time, where policies and standards or compliance isn't necessarily being met by the reality of the situation. And so that's, I mean, I think that's what's happened. Honestly, you can look at the Citrix bleed too. And the fact that, Kevin Beaumont has been posting a list of
Gossie the dog on X, and he's not necessarily on X that much anymore, but Blue Sky and some other yeah.
And he's been posting a list of compromise or vulnerable deployments out there, and a large portion of them are U.S. government deployments, even though it's been a month since they've told them all to patch.
Yeah.
And some of it's their deployments they don't even know they have anymore. Some of it is that they're just not dealing with the compliance aspect within that department. I mean, there's so many different reasons why that doesn't necessarily get patched, and that's just on the patching side,
right?
Not on monitoring tools, not on whether someone's actually checking those monitoring tools and looking through those logs. And so, I mean, there's a lot of ways that something, especially something that's on the outside of the network, that's on the outside of that firewall, which most people think of as like their extreme perimeter. If it's on the other side of my firewall rules, I shouldn't have to worry about it. Okay, but if they get on the underlying OS or hardware of that firewall and they can go out immediately from that port that's on your WAN side, it's on that other side of the firewall, but it's still you. So, and I think that's where a lot of people have issues.
So I'm going to try to weave together a story to get into our, I say a story. I'm going to try to weave several differing things together into one big point on this. But in Texas, we have something called, it's an executive order, GA48.
Yeah.
GS48, GA48?
GA48.
GA48. And basically what the governor says in that executive order is if you're using Chinese technology, if you're employing Chinese nationals, especially like in higher ed or something like that, you're not allowed to do that. If you are a state employee, you're not allowed to visit China with state-owned computers and technology and things like that. I think the whole spirit of that executive order is China equal bad. We should not be dealing with things that are made in China that can be backdoored, that can be used against us from an intelligence gathering standpoint or national security standpoint, which I'm all for. Right, People's Republic of China, yeah, they're an adversary for sure. Prior to that executive order coming out, there was a bill in the Texas legislature.
The prohibited technologies ban?
Prohibitive technologies banned. And one of the technologies that was prohibited in there was what? TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Is TikTok owned by the Chinese government?
Well, not directly, but kind of depending on where you look at it.
I'm setting some traps here, right?
Yeah.
I'm setting some traps. So
is this that controversy we were looking for viewership?
I'm going to get into why Mario keeps misnaming my bulldogs a little later, but that would be the controversy. But here's the thing, and we've had conversations in our SOC about this, like the short-sightedness of these mandates banning things like TikTok. Should TikTok be banned? Okay, sure. Why not? It's a Chinese company owned by is it publicly traded? Like ByteDance is a publicly traded entity, right?
I honestly couldn't tell you if it was private equity but
it's headquartered in China,
yeah.
I believe.
Singapore, I think. Am I thinking wrong?
when it was being targeted by the government, it was largely headquartered in China as a way to circumvent kind of that target of both federal and state entities. They started making headquarters in locations like the United States and maybe Singapore and different locations to try to, again, circumvent the idea that they were going to get banned. But I think originally they definitely were like a Chinese owned and operated company.
So the political argument on banning TikTok is it's a social media app that gathers data on the users, right? And of course, all apps do that.
Yeah, all social media apps gather about the same amount of data, if not, in some cases, more.
Well,
right.
All smart devices are listening. So,
And don't even get me started on AI like Copilot.
Hold on. We're not there yet, gentlemen. We're coming to it. So, in preparation for this podcast, and one of the reasons why I like the format of me doing the research and then posing the questions to y'all is because y'all don't know what I'm going to talk about or how all this is going to weave together. I started thinking about the TikTok ban and how short-sighted that is. And like it's for political expediency is all it is.
It's not actually dealing with the core
It's
issue.
not dealing with the core national security issues that China poses. So I went and did some research. Do y'all know who Express If systems are? The nerds out there will know.
Express IF?
Yes.
No.
So they are the main manufacturer of ESP32 chips. Now, for those nerds out there like me who deal in Arduino and embedded stuff like that, we know ESP32. 70% of all ESP32s in the world are created by Express If Corporation. Where are they headquartered?
China.
Shanghai.
Yeah.
What else does the ESP32 chip go in?
I'm going to guess switches, routers.
IoT devices, cameras, phones,
calculators.
TVs.
Yeah. All of that stuff, right? So where's the outrage? Mario, where's the outrage?
Well, the outrage isn't here with me.
Yeah.
So, I tend to think about it a little bit more like what we had mentioned. I don't want to bring up too much of the old podcast, but if you haven't listened to it, here, I'll repeat it again. It's never an issue until it affects me. So the idea is, well, what's wrong with a calculator? What's wrong with my device that I enjoy? What's wrong with that? I don't know it's collecting data on me, right? Or maybe I do, maybe I don't care. Right. I think a lot of the outrage for things like, did you mention TikTok, right? Things that are being facilitated in China. It's very cherry picky because it's whatever's in fad, right?
Well, I can tell you the ESP32 chip is in fad and has been in fad for a lot of years.
Well, I think more to what Mario's saying is it has more to do with what the layperson is going to recognize. If you said these chips and said they're in everything, I think there's also another side to this, which is with as prolific as they are, 70% of the market. How are you going to replace that?
So that's what I'm saying. You can't have it both ways.
Right,
Well,
right. But that's where the problem comes in. If you identify this as being a potential national security issue, and it's in every single home, in every single hallway, in all the hospitals,
I'm not making
people
this up.
start-
ESP32 chips are in freaking toothbrushes.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Whenever you make it that prolific, and the U.S. government gets behind it and says this is a national security issue, and people start panicking and they try to replace that, there's not a lot of places to go for that, and it's going to end up causing more issues and more harm, I think, than maybe any good that could come of it.
So here's the thing: the chip itself is not bad, as far as I know. You can't as the chip comes off the line, like you can't really backdoor that chip, as far as I know. But as far as I know, I'm not a hardware guy, right? I'm not at that level. But I do know what the chip is used in. Hike vision cameras. Where do hike vision cameras come from?
Yeah, China.
How much of this crap that is this technology, the underlying technology that we use, I don't know, in say National Guard facilities is actually Chinese based?
I mean, there's a significant amount. Well, and that goes, there are a lot of complications with the banning or the tariffs of a lot of these products, because we have for a very, very long time offshored a lot of the manufacturing of those products to China, just because it was cheaper to do. You could basically build the designs here, ship them to China, have them produced for extremely cheap, and then ship them back over here for a finished product, or like the materials to assemble the product here. And that was way cheaper to do. And whenever you're looking at the American consumer, the biggest thing which research has shown, it is cost. I mean, the quality of a product is not the biggest concern. It is the cost of something.
Well,
so, I think that is kind of what some of this has been a reaction to is, maybe we shouldn't have done all that. And it's this reactionary method, and plus the political gain of, well, what is the most the biggest thing out there? Well, TikTok and what do you call those? The drones and all that. That gets the biggest political splash. But I think on the back end, there is a realization of, we probably shouldn't have offshored a lot of this stuff that's used in critical systems for the military or the government. And that's why you get some of that.
And that's probably my biggest gripe with, because I'm with you on the TikTok ban and all these other kind of bans that they're trying to put in place don't really address the core issue. But that's just it. We've spent 30, 40 years now of this kind of practice.
Yeah, globalization
that has begotten these results that now we're starting to come to some realization of how much more thought maybe we should have put into that, other than just the bottom line and the numbers, the money. And they're trying to fix it with, a burn it to the ground kind of method. And it's like, it's not going to be that. It's going to be 5-10 years before we get back to any kind of semblance of. Well,
and nobody
wants to pay $10,000 for an iPhone.
No.
So the globalization has already occurred. That horse is out of the barn.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right. I mean, you start trying to bring all of that back to the United States, and you're going to talk about an economic catastrophe, at least in the technology world, right? Because we don't have access to the rare earth metals.
Well, I mean, the supply chains are not developed. The whole, I mean, and you can see this. There are, funnily enough, there was actually a really well done YouTube video by an organization called Gamers Nexus which is they do a lot of video game coverage. Well, in terms of like hardware performance for computers, and they'll do reviews on like specific components of a computer or certain hardware accessories, etc. But they actually did a whole video on how the tariffs are impacting those peripherals for computers, consumer computers, mostly for video games. Well, what they found when they were talking to these companies like Asus or MSI, all these, which are Chinese companies that make these peripherals, make this hardware, their concern with it is that they don't even want to manufacture like plants here, or even some of the companies that are domestic to the United States, but they bring in all their stuff from China. The problem with manufacturing stuff here isn't even the cost of okay, you get the materials, you pay for the labor. Well, all right, let's foot the bill for that. But what happens in 3 years when the administration switches and then all of a sudden that goes away? Well, now you're at a competitive disadvantage to, once again, all the Chinese manufacturers that start spinning up and sending all their low cost stuff over here. So you've got that problem as well. You don't have the developed supply lines. The manufacturing's not here. It's more expensive to do it. And you're basically at the whims of an administration on, okay, well, if they decide to reverse all this, my business is done.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do think there can be something to be said of diversification. I think, yes, China has a lot of the rare earth metals. They're not the only place. They're one of a few places. But also that is raw materials. You can still help develop, like honestly, Taiwan is a great example, as much as there's issues there as well.
That is a very small island.
It is a very small island that produces a lot of chips.
They actually produce, China produces 60 to 70% of the SP32s. Taiwan produces 30 to 40%.
Right. They're the rest.
So it's the People's Republic of China and the Democratic Republic of China. Both are Taiwan. What is it? The Republic of China. I forget the actual country name, but yeah, both Chinese basically.
Yeah. So, but that goes to point out though, because Taiwan does not have access to those rare earth metals. They still have to get them from China or from us, but they are able to develop them. They have the factory capacity. So there are other avenues for being able to increase this on a world scale, and maybe even help elevate other countries in the process of doing so.
And and that's a kind of a two-pillar issue, because you not only do you have the mining process, which there are places that do have the ability to mine rare earth minerals. The United States does have it. It hasn't been done here for a very long time, and I feel like we can get into the company in which some interesting stuff behind that. But even outside of the United States, I mean, there are advancements that we've seen where there's a whole untapped industry of undersea or underwater mining, like in where that's some of the deposits of rare earth minerals exist there. So you could see maybe some investment in that area where we collect those. But again, that's only one aspect of the issue. You've got the second aspect of the issue, which is the actual refinement of the rare earth minerals, which pretty much all of that's done in China. So even the companies that were mining these rare earth minerals that may have not existed in China, because I know there were some in Africa as well, they still have to ship it to China
to get it refined.
And the thing that helps with on their front is, again, that supply chain. Their refined rare earth minerals are already there in China. It's much cheaper to ship them from a refinement facility to a manufacturing facility there than it getting on a boat and then going somewhere else, right? So you get those developed supply chains, which then cut the cost on top of cheaper labor, which then end up at the bottom line of a product. So
yep. I think this goes back to something we were talking about collectively yesterday, actually, or the day before. That is basically on the world stage and on our domestic stage here in America. There's been a large amount of, for lack of a better word, centralization of different supply chains. It honestly goes almost towards monopolization to a degree, but we've seen progressively over the world this movement towards less and less diversity in supply chains, in which countries provide what products and manufacturing. In America, what companies deal with certain aspects of the supply chain, such as packaging, one of the ones that we talked about the other day. It makes it much, much harder for if someone isn't playing nice, like in the case with China, to where they can easily cut off that supply. Okay, well, now you're just screwed.
Well,
or even in the case of something just going wrong, an accident, all of a sudden it can take things down. So I think our lack of diversification on all these things, and all of it was just it was constantly going towards the bottom line and trying to save money, as opposed to trying to build resiliency and save money.
Yeah.
If they had done both, then we may not have ended up in the same place.
So I want to bring this back.
because we went geopolitical on you.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Yep.
Because I think it's apt, but I want to bring it back to the absurdity of our political process and the banning of TikTok. Right? Ban TikTok all you want, but that's a political statement. And if your adversary is really the PRC, the People's Republic of China, guess what country owns $1.9 trillion in United States debt? The People's Republic of China, right?
Yep.
You're worried about a social media app has national security implications. You're talking about a country that could dump all kinds of treasury notes at a whim and put us under.
Not to mention, I mean,
Not forever, but it would hurt.
but even on the cybersecurity side, just the cybersecurity side of things, the kinds of attacks we've seen from them, from their proxies, quote unquote, the not technically them, can't be 100% tied to them kind of thing. But all of that is tied to attacking infrastructure, to IP, to doing corporate espionage. Like China, so my big difference between like China and Russia in my mind, as far as like adversaries go from a cybersecurity perspective, is the Russian-oriented groups are there to destroy you.
They're there to make money.
They're gonna. It's a monetary incentive for sure for all the groups, but also they're there to disrupt. Everything that they're going to do is going to cause loss in uptime. It's going to be a recovery process.
So every state has their state affiliated actors, but the main things that we see out of Russia are the ransomware groups. Right? They're there to make a buck. Which, as a good capitalist, I mean, I get that. I can understand that. I can defend against it. And I said it last week on the podcast last week. If those ransomware actors actually turn from being monetary to idealistic and saying, to hell,
screwed.
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. China's adversaries, the state-sponsored adversaries like Salt Typhoon and Group 941, whoever they are, they're in it for the long haul, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's what I was going to say. That for them, it's about sit and listen. It's oftentimes not even really about the exfil. Eventually, it ends up getting to some kind of exfil, and that's why it's so hard to catch China over Russian adversaries. Chinese adversaries will find the 1-0 day, and they'll employ it all over where they can, but then they don't do anything once they're in. They're just there to listen.
They're developing 0 days.
Right.
And they never get published. So you never know that they're there, right? It takes security researchers to find that stuff.
But even with the 0 days, we don't have enough telemetry in order to even hone in on the fact they used a 0 day.
No, I agree.
Because they're so quiet. They don't want to do anything with it. So they don't end up messing with us.
Again, I go back to the $1.9 trillion in United States debt that China owns on us. And you want to talk to me about TikTok being a national security threat?
I mean, I guess you can look at it on, like, from the perspective of, okay, they own these treasuries. There's not really much from a congressional, political, like mandate side that they can do about that.
Well, you can. You can say treasuries are available for everyone except China.
Well, yeah, but
then they're going to dump it.
Yeah, then they're going to dump it, and then you've got the other thing too is
that's what I was saying, that the horse has already left the barn on a lot of this stuff.
And well, that goes to my point, is the idea of, okay, well, they kind of have to just ignore that, like there's nothing you can really do about it. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't, kind of thing. So at that point, you start looking at other things, and we could say like maybe TikTok isn't the number one thing to focus on, but the idea is you can look at that and be like, okay, this is a Chinese-run social media application that is basically on every person's phone in America.
How controversial do you want me to be?
Keep it simple.
Because overall, I think the whole reasoning behind labeling TikTok a national security concern became very apparent during the Supreme Court trial about it, about the TikTok ban. It was because they didn't like the political ideology that was being put forth on it. Which, if you're scared of hearing a different political ideology and that getting taken away from everything.
Here's my actual. So I think that definitely plays into it, but I think it's a little bit more simplistic because if we remember back when all these conversations very first started, was because companies like Facebook wanted to buy it. Yes. Because there was a market that existed that they did not have access to. And they wanted the U.S. government to step in and require the Chinese company to sell it.
How dare you bring money into politics like that?
Yeah.
Like I said, how controversial you want to get. Because, I absolutely agree with you. Like, I mean, Meta was one of the big ones testifying against TikTok. And Facebook is the one who was being looked at for.
They get fined like every 3 weeks in the EU because they're stealing data.
Right, right.
Well, so does Google, right?
Yeah, I mean that's all of them.
So let's bring it back to the ESP32 chips made in China. Right, we've went around the world on this. So I specifically did research on SCADA systems because I wanted to know if SCADA, which for any normies out there, what SCADA is, it's the embedded systems that basically run the what are y'all doing?
Oh yeah.
We're trying to crack a cold one.
All right. So the SCADA systems are basically the embedded systems that control like dams and water supplies and all of that. On there. So I wanted to research to see if there was any Chinese technology in SCADA systems because that, if you really wanted to hurt critical infrastructure, SCADA systems is one of the things that you would want to
target.
Yeah, target. And one of these days, if we get big enough, I want to have a lady by the name of Leslie Coward on. I think she goes by the handle Hacks for Pancakes. Really cool lady living down in Australia right now. But she works for Dragos, which is a cybersecurity company that focuses on like embedded devices and SCADA systems and remediation and all that stuff. But in my research, I found, luckily, there's not a whole lot of Chinese technology in SCADA systems themselves. In the actual systems that you use to either shut down, put chlorine in water, whatever it is. But aside from the unauthenticated VNC that lets you get into the damn things, right, which is a whole nother thing, those ESP32 chips are in the sensors that monitor that stuff. Right. So you can think about the ESP32 as being like an IoT chip on that. So stuff like tank level monitors, environmental sensors,
the gas station stuff.
Yeah.
That you can hit on Shodan.
Yeah, exactly. All of that kind of stuff that is in the critical infrastructure, but not directly tied. It's tied to a SCADA system, but it's not. The Chinese technology is not in the SCADA system proper. It's on the periphery of all of that stuff. Now, do I think that the Chinese government can hack into critical infrastructure? Yes, I do. You know how I know? Because we've done it, right? We've done it on pen testing.
Well, and what's more is there's been, it was even only a couple of years ago, the FBI was putting out basically like public announcements to they did in conjunction with CISA about Chinese malware being found in critical infrastructure, especially electrical critical infrastructure, and how I believe at one point in time they said that they were finding them and that they were proving that they'd been in there for months, but they couldn't tell exactly how long they were there.
Right.
They would kick them out, and then they would find them in the same places again.
Well, I mean, and we've been the victim of that as well in the case that Brad was talking about, having that that I think it was an edge router.
Yeah,
that was popped, and we eradicated that thing, and then it showed back up, right?
We basically ended up having to completely get the vendor to rebuild the thing from scratch, because
it wasn't doing anything like malicious. It was basically part of a botnet as far as we could see.
Botnet and listening, which goes to Joe's point on that's mostly what they're there for, espionage.
So it's my assumption at this point, and this is going to be a scary assumption for people out there, and I'm not trying to cause panic in any way, but this is how I operate on the daily basis, is my assumption that China is just on all the electric grid. They're pretty much wherever they want to be, and
I have that same assumption.
And they're listening, and someone somewhere in China probably has a nice little program for a kill switch.
Well, I have that same assumption. That's why I think this TikTok crap is just subterfuge, right? That it's all political expediency. That's all it is.
100%. One thing that we kind of forget, I think us in this room as like cyber professionals, we know the issue. How many of the people who are making these laws that are creating these bills, making these bans, do they actually know what they're talking about?
Hell no.
Absolutely not.
Hell no. I remember the 3 or 4 years ago, they had congressional hearings in Washington, D.C. about apps, Google tracking you and collecting data. And one of the congressmen or senators held up a phone and said, "So you're telling me that Google can track me through my phone?" And the Google's like, "I have no idea what kind of phone that is." They can't even grasp the concepts of what technology is on this. So no, they don't know. It's
and then you have the other side of it, which is they're constantly being lobbied by industry that. So let's be honest. So for the electric side, right, for SCADA systems, but let's just focus on just the electric grid because it is so crucial to national security, right? To fix that would require Congress to potentially put in some kind of regulation or strictures on that industry saying you need to be this level of security and you need to have this level of audit in order to make sure China's not there. Like that's what would be necessary in order to say completely we're clean and we're safe.
But then you were going to piss off a large segment of this populace that says the government spends too much money because bureaucrats are going to have to be hired.
But that's exactly
to facilitate those audits.
They either have to put money towards it from Congress, which they'll have to put a little bit no matter what.
Can you say self-assessment?
Or they would have to put in those requirements and have the industry foot the bill, which industry does not want to do. And so it's either the American people foot the bill or the industry foots the bill. The industry is pushing for the industry not to have to foot the bill, and Congress doesn't want to raise the cost.
I mean, I can tell you if the industry had to foot the bill, that means the consumer has to foot the bill. It's not the industry.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So either way, we end up paying, I guess.
So all of this, right? So I wanted to get into the SCADA systems and the embedded stuff and talk about this chip. Now, again, the chip as it stands, as far as I know, is used to create other things that are used, right? And those things are the things that can be backdoored, not necessarily the chip. The chip is there to process instructions, right?
Right.
But do y'all remember, was it last year, talking about supply chains, that Israel had the greatest supply chain hack of all time? Now, regardless of what political side you're on this, from a supply chain hack.
Talking about the walkie-talkie things?
Yeah, pagers.
Yeah, pagers.
Exploding.
Yeah.
Right?
To manage to get it in that many hands and do it covertly where they didn't know. Yeah, I mean.
I bet you they had ESP32 chips too.
Yeah.
potentially.
Maybe. I don't know. But the whole thing, and we'll wrap it up here with critical infrastructure. I don't know why the People's Republic of China would even bother going through all of that mess to plant and do all the subterfuge to put, sensors that can be hacked later on and to listen to all this stuff, when all they really have to do is send a link and get a password of username and password of admin and 12345, and they're in a SCADA system that they can do all kinds of damage to.
Well, and we don't know how much of their proliferation is because of that. I mean, honestly, Russia, Iran, North Korea, a lot of that is, we keep on running into that time and time again, but we can hammer that one out another time.
I do have an interesting thing because as we know, basically these problems that we experience or we see, it's industry wide. They're very common. So I kind of want to flip this a little bit. So China's doing it to us, Russia's doing it to us, Iran's doing it to us, but I guarantee you these problems that we're talking about, the admin 123 or an unauthenticated VNC server on all this stuff, how much do you think that we have American state actors that are actually doing literally the exact same thing on the other end?
Actually, not. I think it was in one of the products we were reviewing for dark web. They have a thing where they show the number of ransomware attacks per country, and the vast majority of them are in America.
But that could be. I mean, here's the thing. That could be a couple of different things. That could be ease of access, or it could be we're the richest country on the face of the planet. So yeah, that's who you want to.
But
target.
It's not like there's not rich people in other countries.
No, I agree. But
and they never get hacked.
Well, I don't think there's really like a financial motive from American state actors. This would be mostly if America, which I know they do,
yeah.
But it's not going to be the same MO where you get probably
we're probably going to get a call from one of those 3-letter agencies after this podcast goes live.
But
maybe they can sponsor us.
Now sponsored by the NSA.
Yeah.
Click the link below and you'll get 10% off on your daily surveillance.
You'll get 5 years deferred probation.
Yeah. But the idea is I have a feeling they're probably associated with most of the 3-letter agencies. They're probably within those 3-letter agencies. So in that case, I feel like they would act very similar to the way the Chinese state actors work, where it's it's not really a profit incentive. I mean,
so
from
what
time
you're talking about is mutually assured self-destruction.
Yeah, basically the idea of it's
so the idea is.
But from a technical
right. So the
Not
idea
mass
is
genocide.
if China pulls the trigger on us, we're going to pull the trigger on them, because the assumption is we've got as much infiltration in China as they do here, and that could be the case. I have no idea.
Now you get the supply chain issue, which I don't think China has as much because they've just manufactured all their stuff there. They also have a command economy, so that the government can way easier that's a bad English, but the more easily control what their corporations and government entities do. So it's less likely to have government sponsored items there. But just think about, for example, the popularity of the iPhone in China, the popularity of Tesla in China. We have some American products that are there that are very common.
Actually, the Chinese company BYD has outsold Tesla
100%
for the first time.
And if they were available here, they would probably outsell them here.
Oh yeah. Well,
Which
again,
he doesn't want to hear that, but
again, American consumers care more about the price than there is anything.
Yep.
And if you had a very, very cheap EV, but that's an entirely different conversation.
I still wouldn't buy it.
They look pretty cool.
There's some statistics out there for the EVs here, but you're right. That is that's
your Zoomer generation.
But the ultimately there is.
Richard, we're in a podcast.
It's the FBI. Don't answer.
It is unverified caller.
Yeah. It's the guy that was listening, Richard's personal FBI agent.
Yeah.
How many of those chips you got in that phone?
There's a ton, I guarantee you.
Oh yeah, you're right.
But the idea is that there is American technology. I mean, one of the things that the reason that we're the richest country in the world has been our technological innovation. China has kind of piggybacked off that through the manufacturing sides, through the theft of IP. But we are kind of the technology hub.
Yeah.
So a lot of that does exist there in some form or factor. So there is I don't know because we don't get that kind of reporting here. However, I did see, I think it was Bleeping Computer or maybe it was the Hacker News. They actually recently did publish an article about what was considered an American state actor. And I thought that was really cool. Like, you just don't see that very often.
It's usually Chinese state actor, Russian state actor, North Korean state actor. Yeah.
Makes sense from where we're at in the geopolitical.
Our perspective.
Our perspective. Yeah. But I have a feeling that does happen over there. You do have some form of infiltration.
Is absolutely no doubt. No doubt. I mean, there's probably agencies that we don't even know about doing that stuff, right?
Tell you what, Shodan is global. And
not in China. It's not.
There's no Shodan in China?
I don't think you can Shodan any IPs in China.
That's weird because it's just a crawler, right?
They got the Great Firewall.
Shodan, please sponsor us.
Mario just pushing sponsorships.
Yeah, someone's got to do it.
Yeah. So anyway, good conversation for this week, fellas. I absolutely appreciate the time. Joe, take us out of here.
Bye.
Okay. I thought you were going to do